Hello friends, in this session I'm going to show you how to use SSIS package and table mapping to generate extracts as text files. So before moving to this, first let's have a look at what we have done so far. So if you follow all my sessions, by now you got an idea on how to use different methods like data flow task, SQL command, BCP command to generate extracts. So let's check that first. So open data flow task and open OLEDB source. So we are using variable names. We are using variables instead of direct values in the control flow task. And we used executables and we haven't used variables in this execute process task, right? So first, before moving to table mapping, first let's convert this as well for variable mapping so that we can map table data with variables, and variables will be used in this control flow task to generate extracts. That is the flow, right? Okay, let's convert this. Let's map variables. Let's have these values stored in a variable and map those variables in the expressions in execute process task as well. Let's copy these values into a notepad first. And cancel it and open variables and create variables for these values as well. So let's create a new variable for executable path. And create another variable for working directory. So copy executable path into executable and working directory path into working directory. And no need to I will copy the command into command because command is common to all the control flow tasks, right? And executable and working directory are only specific to execute process task, but command, database name, server name, target name, and all others are common to every control flow task. So let's close it and let's map that in expressions, arguments, and we should map command here, evaluate, and executable, map executable here, and then map working directory here. Okay, that's it. We're done with variable mapping in execute process task. Let's execute this task. Executed, right? Okay, now let's go to table creation. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna create a table with having column names with these variables, and will insert the values as a record in table. Let's go ahead, go to here, and I already created script for that, and I'm using my database WordP project, and I'm gonna create a table name generate extracts with extract ID as identity column, which generates automatic increment sequential number, and server name, database name, and all those details. Okay, let's create. So table created, and let's go to insert. So I'm inserting SQL command related source details. So these details are necessary to generate an extract. So basically I'm storing server name, database name, and the command we prepared in our last session, and the header and delimiter and file path, target file path, and the type of the SQL command, because in SSIS package, in order to identify what type of data it is, we have to indicate a record as type of the execution, right? So I'm defining for that purpose. So this is type SQL command, and then store that command path here and store working directory path here. So let's insert, let's execute it. Now let's see the data here. So we have the data, right? So now go back to package and close this one. And so in order to map table data with variable values, we have to use a task to fetch the data from table, right? So the task that we have to use to perform this task is execute process task. So it basically execute a SQL task and stores that value in a variable. So I'm dragging that and open that and define the connection. So I'm using new connection, new server name is localhost, and select database name WordP project. Okay, and SQL statement is our query. So this is our query, right? And don't use star here, because we must know the sequential order of the column names, because we have to map this with variables in a certain order. So let's have the column names in the select query and copy this query into the query here. So copied, click OK. And one more thing, we don't need extract ID, right? So we don't need extract ID because we that is for identity column. So we are not going to use that ID column in our extract. So let's remove that. Okay, let's click on OK, and I will remove from here as well. Yeah, and now go to parameters. No, not go to parameters, and go to general again, and select full result set as result set, because I would like to store the whole result set of the query in a variable. So I'm selecting full result set. If you want to have only one single row, then you need to select single row, and if you want to, if the query is returning an XML type data, then you have to select XML. So in our case, I'm returning full result set, so that's why I'm selected full result set, and I'm going to result set and add, and because that is returning multiple rows, full result set, I have to declare it as 0, and variable name I have to create an object variable, because it's a full result set, right? So it should hold a table data. So that's why we have to create an object type variable. So let's call it extract list and variable type object. Click OK, and then click OK. Let's execute it, whether it executes or it gives any compilation errors. So it's executed successfully, right? Okay, now let's go to, so once we got the object ready, we have to loop through all the records in that object, and then we have to execute for each record this control flow task. So that's our workflow. So let's drag for each loop container, because it's based on, we have to loop based on table data. We have to select for each loop. If we want to loop through a fixed number of times, if we know the number of times we have to iterate the process, then we can select for loop. So I've selected for each loop and drag that execute SQL task into this. Oh, I'm sorry, no need to drag, and let's go back. Okay, now let's drag precedence constant and map with for each loop container and open for each loop container and collection. Now because we have to read a variable, we have to select for each loop for each ADO enumerator, and ADO object source is extract list, and I want to loop rows in the first table only because it's returning only the first one result set, right? It doesn't have many result sets. So I've selected this option and go to variables and map each of our column data with respect to variable name. So let's check what's the first variable name or column name. So server name is our first column name, right? So first define the server name here. So select the existing variable and index is 0. So it starts from 0. Don't get confused here. It starts from 0, not from 1. And then DB name 1. And then query is command, right? And then header, and then delimiter. So we don't have delimiter because we haven't used that yet. So let's create a new variable for delimiter. Okay, delimiter. And then file path, we have target file path, and then execution type is execution type. We haven't declared that as well. Okay, let's create a new execution type. Click OK, and then executable path, and then working directory. Okay, we have 9 columns. So that means starting from 0, we have 9 columns, right? Okay, let's OK. Now we mapped it, right? So now let's test this package again. So let's disable the first 2 tasks before execute, because we can't execute 2 tasks at a time. So let's start to check whether we map it correctly or it's giving any compilation errors. Okay, so we mapped correctly, everything is working fine as expected. So now let's enable the execute process task and drag that execute process task into inside for each loop container. Okay, so now let's open execute process task just to check what it is actually using. So it is using the variables for properties, for parameters, right? So that's it. No need to modify anything in execute process task because we are actually updating these variables in the before step itself. So before the control coming to the execute process task, it actually updates that variables with corresponding values, and then it comes to execute process task to generate that extract. So it gets updated before it actually processes this task, right? Okay, now let's go back to our source path and let's remove to validate, to check. Okay, now let's execute again. So it's using SQL command. If you notice, it's using SQL command, right? So there are no errors. So executed successfully. So command executed, and let's open it. Okay, so data is loaded correctly, right? Let's close. So I want to show you one thing here. So let's enable this one and let's drag into data flow task. So package again and see what happens. So SQL command executed successfully because the row, the data that is coming from the table is related to SQL command, not related to data flow task, right? So that's why execute process task has executed successfully and data flow task has failed. So to avoid this, we have to bypass, we have to conditionally navigate the cursor or control to relevant respective control flow task based on the type that we defined in the table row. So for that, we have to evaluate that expression and we have to check whether that gives true or false condition. So for that, we have to use expression task. Let's drag that expression task into the for each loop container now, and let's configure this for execute type. Not here actually. So we have to evaluate this expression in the precedence constraint, not in the actual expression, because actual expression doesn't give anything. If we want to modify anything, then if we want to evaluate anything else, then we have to use expression. But for now, no need to use anything here. I'm just placing it here, but that doesn't do anything. And let's drag this and let's drag another precedence constraint to data flow task, and let's open the precedence constraint by selecting precedence constraint and double click on that, and let's select expression and constraint and expression. Now drag execute type equal to SQL command. Right, so we have to use equal to. So if execution type is equal to SQL command, then go to this, or else go to data flow task. And also we have to define here okay, it is showing, so it indicates R. So for R condition, we can't use O or R in SSIS package expression. We have to use the bitwise operators, double pipe symbols here. Okay, so I want to navigate the process to execute process task. I want to navigate the control to execute process task when we have when it find execute type as SQL command or BCP command. So let's click OK and click OK, and then here again go again define equal to TFT. Evaluate false for now. Okay. So now let's execute. So if you notice, only the execute process task has executed. So data flow task has been ignored because it finds only execution type of SQL command. Now let's execute this. Executed. Now verify the record here again. So second record is for data flow task execution. So now let's go back here and execute again. Executing the first extract and then okay. So because it's returning null values, it's showing error. So we have to pass, better to pass, if it is null, then pass an empty string as executable. it's null, then pass empty string for that as well. Now let's execute again this one. Or if you don't want to do this, just store empty values instead of null values in this table. So then you no need to use is null and explicitly convert that as blank from null values. So let's copy this query again and paste into execute process task, and here click OK and OK. Now execute again. So both are executed successfully, and if you go to data flow task, you will be able to see the number of rows and high level of detail for data exports. But if you use execute process task, you can't see that level of detail in progress, right? Okay. So now go to this. So it has generated 2 files, and similarly we need to configure script for BCP command as well here. And if you, let's say I want to generate this extract for BCP command as well, so I'm modifying this BCP command and we have to, so let's prepare that script for BCP command as well. BCP command, let's copy the BCP command related values that we initially used. So let's copy the syntax of command here into command area, copy it, and then this one bcp.exe to here, insert this record as well, insert it, BCP command. Now let's execute again. SQL command execution and BCP command also done. So now go back here, so you see all 3 files here. So that's how we execute. We can prepare SSIS package, and we can map data flow task and other tasks with a table, rows to generate extracts. So this is an idea we can use to generate extracts. So actually, if you want, and if you notice here, the easiest way for end users to configure instead of a developer configure these queries, the easiest way is SQL command. So okay, so we can actually you can actually analyze from here to which way is better for you, or the more comfortable way for end users or minimal technical people to configure this. So this is how we can use SSIS package to generate extracts based on table.